and I'm a chief researcher at the Law Institute of the Lithuanian Center of Social Sciences. I am one of the organizers of this event. I am also the person who leads the EU co-funded project LA Child, in the framework of which this conference takes place. I am actually very excited about the event, as we have a number of prominent speakers from many countries, and I really believe that their presentations will give us a lot of ideas and also food for thought. I have an honor to moderate the conference until the lunch break, and after that, the moderation will be taken by my Belgian colleague Eva, and later by my Lithuanian colleague Ruta. A bit later, I will come back again to give you a brief introduction of the project LA Child. However, before that, I would like to welcome and give the word to our dear colleague, Benoit van Keertbilk. Benoit van Keertbilk is part of our team. He is the director of the Belgian section of Defense for Children International, which is the partner in our project. And actually, we are very proud to say that he was recently elected to the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child. Benoit is also chief editor of the Journal of Children Law, and also he's a member of the advisory board of the United Nations Global Study on Children Deprived of Liberty. Dear Benoit, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much, Agne, for these kind words. And indeed, I will intervene with these two hats, and very happy to be part of this team, which is implementing this very interesting project, LA Child, so Legal Aid for Children, with my colleague Eva, who is in charge of the implementation of the project in Belgium, and also, as you mentioned, as an incoming member of the Committee on the Rights of the Child. I would just like to clarify that my mandate hasn't started yet. It will start on the 1st of March. And that means that formally I'm not yet a member. It's coming very soon. And I can only speak on my own behalf. I'm not reflecting the views of the committee, just for the sake of clarity. Let's start with by the beginning. In an ideal world, we should hope that not a single child were brought in front of a court or need to use legal avenue to obtain the respect of his or her rights. That's the ideal world. The child should not face those difficult procedures and so on. But in any case, even if the justice system is really taking into account the specific needs and the rights of every child, we know that it will be a difficult experience for a child, and we should avoid it as much as possible, but not at all price. Since we are not in such an ideal world, we have to recognize that many children face difficulties in their personal life that will lead them to face the judicial system. This can happen in a very different situation, different capacity, as victim, as witness, or alleged offender. And this last one is mainly the topic of this project. But it can also happen in other capacities or procedures like administrative procedure, or each time a child would like to ask for the respect of his or her rights if it's not the case. I have the feeling that during decades, the lawyers supporting the children were on duty, in a way obliged to take cases dealing with children's rights in the very beginning of their career. This was at least the fact in Belgium. So that means that the less competent lawyers were appointed to assist and represent the person who had probably the biggest and the most important need for a strong and effective support. And this is still, I am afraid, what's happening in many countries. So it shows the importance of the topic of this conference. It's very clear now that, in theory at least, the justice system has to be adapted and take into account all the specificities of the situation of every child. If we look at the definition of a child-friendly justice, it's an excellent and comprehensive summary of what we need and what we would like to reach. And if you allow me, let me quote this definition, which is always a very inspiring definition. Child-friendly justice refers to a justice system which guarantees the respect and effective implementation of all children's rights at the highest attainable level, bearing in mind the principle listed in the guidelines and giving due consideration to the child's level of maturity, understanding the circumstances of the case, and in particular, justice that is accessible, age-appropriate, speedy, diligent, adapted, and focus on the needs and rights of the child, respecting the rights, including the right to a due process. We are in the middle of that in this project, to participate and understand the proceedings, to respect private and family life, and the integrity and the dignity of all children. This end of the quote. We know that this requires a proactive approach and certainly not a passive one. We can expect from the state to really do many efforts to implement such a system. Children should have the same procedural rights as adults, at least, this is the base, but need more information in an adapted way and certainly a stronger support at all stages of the procedure. One of the ways to ensure this is to guarantee that the professionals that help the children in their journey in the justice system are fully aware of the needs of the children and able to respect those rights themselves, but even more, they must be the warrant that the procedure is fully respected. This is what the LA Child Legal Aid project is all about. Looking at the system in place and ensuring that it guarantees that every child receives the support of a lawyer who has the specific knowledge and the capacity to deal with children and children's rights, and we know that it's not given for everyone. This system must be accessible, transparent, effective and efficient, and of course it should be free of charge for the child and for the parents. It's part of the duty of the state to set up such a system, as I said. We do have a lot of guidance to help us and to help the state to set up such a system. Since we are in Europe, let's look at the EU directive that protect more and more the rights of the most vulnerable citizens. Of course, we have the guidelines on child-friendly justice of the Council of Europe that I already quoted, which are known as a common basis for any judicial system. We also have the CRC, the Convention on the Right of the Child, of course. I'm very well placed to mention that. And its interpretation by the Committee on the Right of the Child. And for instance, in the general comments, and in particular in general comment 24, which cover children's rights in the justice system. If you haven't read it yet, I would strongly recommend that you take the time to read it carefully because it's a very comprehensive and strong reference and universal one. Of course, you have other general comments on the best interest of the child, on the participation of children, which are also very relevant in this regard. Finally, let's not forget that access to justice has been identified as one of the 17 goals of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and in particular, the goal 16.3. The rationale behind this is that the world will only reach this objective if there is an access to justice for everyone in place. This is a condition to implement and to reach those goals. In this project too, we need to ensure that one do not leave any child behind. And we know that this will be amongst the most difficult challenges. One way to assess if the system in place is meeting all these ambitious objectives is to look at the most vulnerable and excluded children and see if he or she has a proper and effective remedy when he or she is facing a legal challenge. As long as a child who is, let's say, in a solitary confinement, in a closed institution, in a psychiatric hospital, in the cell of a police station, as long as he doesn't have the means to reach out to a legal support or remedy, effective and accessible, age-appropriate legal system, our work is not finished. So let's keep that in mind. And as a future member of the Committee on the Right of the Child, I can assure you that this will be one of my main priorities, to scrutinize reports of the states when they come for the periodic review. And there is no doubt that the conclusion of the LA Child project will for sure help me in this endeavor. I wish you a great and fruitful discussion with such a list of impressive speakers, as Agne mentioned. I thank you very much for the organizer for inviting me to address this audience, and I really look forward to the next realization of the LA Child project, and I will listen carefully to the next speaker of this conference. I wish you an excellent discussion day.
Thank you so much, dear Benoit, for introducing us to the topic, for highlighting the main issues, and also for your kind words about the project and about everything. In fact, Benoit worked a lot with me when we were preparing the project, drafting its idea so that it would be interesting and useful as well. And I'm very glad he continues to be involved with us even now when he is has so much more additional tasks in addition to our project. Let me now continue, and as I promised earlier, I will shortly present the project that we call as a short name LA Child. As it was noted earlier, this conference is a part of it. So I should give you a short introduction about the project as well. Let me see how yes, it works. The EU co-funded project, the full name of which is Legal Aid for Children in Criminal Proceedings, Developing and Sharing Best Practices, or LA Child, as I will refer to it during my speech, is implemented by the consortium of partners from 3 European countries. Countries which are quite different in their background, also in their location and their regional specifics. And these countries are Lithuania, the Baltic state, then we have Albania as the EU candidate state, and also from the Balkan region country. And the third partner is already mentioned, DSI Belgium, colleague from the Central Europe, the Western and old EU member state. Our project started in February 2020, and it will end in December 2021. We can say that our project will cover all the COVID times. Hopefully, by the end of our project, the COVID will end as well. The project idea is inspired by the assumption that vulnerability of children in conflict with the law, which is due to their age, physical, mental, and social immaturity, defines the necessity to pay particular attention to their needs in criminal proceedings. As Benoit already noted, this leads to continuous efforts for the protection of their rights and best interests in line with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and other international standards. Our team believes that every child who is facing justice as a suspect or accused person is entitled to accessible, appropriate, and quality legal aid, as respect of his or her rights and his situation in general will strongly depend on the assistance that he receives from the initial stages of the procedure. Our project's overall objective is to contribute enhancing the protection of procedural rights of children in conflict with the law. And it also seeks to foster coherent implementation of the directive to 2016/800 on procedural safeguards for children who are suspects or accused persons in criminal proceedings. Of course, we target not the old directive, but a specific provision on legal aid to children. A few words should be said about our consortium partners. I already mentioned the countries where we come from. So we have 3 organizations from 3 European countries who gave their time and efforts for this project. First of all, we have the Law Institute of Lithuanian Center for Social Sciences, the institution which I represent also. It is the leading partner of the project. Lithuanian Law Institute of Lithuanian Center for Social Sciences is a public institution of scientific research, and this year we celebrate 30 years. It is active since independence of Lithuania in 1991. The Law Institute has extensive experience in applied research in the field of children's rights, child justice, criminal law, as well as legal aid. We work on national level. However, we also are actively engaged in international projects. And recently we were engaged in a project which is very much linked to the LA Child project. And that project focused on the quality of legal aid. It was, again, the project funded by the European Union. I should also mention that at the moment, my colleague Ruta, who is also present and will give presentation later on, she's also leading a project related to the children's rights, and her project is on individual assessment of the child in the criminal proceedings. It's called IA Child, and you might be interested to Google it and to find information about it as well. Our Belgian partner is the DSI Belgium. This is the Belgian section of the worldwide movement Defense for Children International. The goal of this organization is to promote and protect children's rights on the local, regional, and global levels. It is a well-known, well-established organization and has been working in the field of justice for children for many, many years. I should also note that before this project, DSI was a leading partner in the project My Lawyer, My Rights. Again, a project very much linked to the project we are having now, which also might be of interest for you because they had a lot of publications, which I believe are worth reading and spreading further. Our Albanian colleague, the third partner in this project, is the non-profit organization Center for Integrated Legal Services and Practices. Its activity is focused on providing legal and psychological aid to children in conflict with the law, as well as children victims. Over more than a decade, the Center for Integrated Legal Services and Practices has assisted a high number of children and conducted important research studies on Albanian legislation as well as children's rights in Albania. Again, they also go to international arena, try to share their knowledge and bring international knowledge to Albanian legal framework. You will hear presentations of our research from all the 3 countries in the afternoon session right after the lunch break. I should also necessarily mention DLA Piper, which is not directly part of our team, but which gave us precious research assistance. DLA Piper, in fact, is a global business law firm. However, it supported the project by conducting pro bono national legal desk researches in 11 European countries. We gave them a questionnaire and asked to fill it so that we would be aware of the framework of regulating legal aid in their respective countries, and we received really valuable information from there. Our project team is really grateful for the detailed and scrupulous work the DLA Piper did for us. Let me now briefly present the content of our project and the activities that we are doing in it. So our project consists of several blocks of activities. We are now in the middle of them. The project started with the analysis of regulation and practices in the European states when providing legal aid for children. For this purpose, desk research was performed in 14 countries, and also semi-structured interviews with professionals were conducted in 3 of them. In particular, interviews were conducted, of course, in our 3 project countries, Lithuania, Belgium, and Albania. It supplemented our research, and we received a lot of information which you cannot see from the documents when you read it. In addition to that, we also did the European Union, Council of Europe, and the international regulation overview in the area, and we analyzed it and summarized it. We then proceeded with the development of guidelines on providing legal aid for children in conflict with the law. This is our one of our milestones, one of our main documents that we will have as a result of our project. At the moment, this document is still our work in progress. We are not finished. The guidelines that we will prepare will be based on good practices that were identified by the research in the countries we did, and also through the consultations with the experts. Once we have the guidelines on child-friendly legal aid, we will share them widely as we can. And the purpose of this is to foster possibility to change the national legal aid systems, to improve them, and to present the ideas for the national policymakers on how legal aid for children could be better adapted for children's needs. Once we have the guidelines ready, we will also draft its child-friendly version. Again, this document will be disseminated through all our contacts and in our countries, as well as in the countries of Europe which are not part of our project directly. This international conference that we are having right now is one of the milestones of our project. This mutual learning event allows us to share our work, and also it is expected to provide further ideas for the development of the guidelines we are working now on. Moreover, in the autumn, seeking to spread our knowledge further, we will organize trainings to lawyers, to judges, legal aid boards, and social workers in our countries. So these capacity building activities will take place in Lithuania and Belgium and in Albania. They will be conducted in national languages, and I sincerely hope that at least part of you will be also taking part in them. A final note about the project activities is that we will end our project in December with policy dialogues in our 3 countries, and again, to come all together, which we hope to have it as not an online event anymore. We plan to run a roundtable discussion in Brussels. Overall, we hope that our research activities and events will be used in further improving regulation and provision of legal aid for children. We have indeed put a lot of efforts into comparative research on which our project is based, and all our documents we produce is not only our scientific or practical insights, but it's based on the analysis of regulation and practice in a considerable amount of European countries. Here in the slide, you see how many countries of Europe we have covered. The 3 green ones, I recently realized we are for all 3 small countries, is the project countries where we conduct the desk research and the interviews. And the big blue territory is the countries where desk research was made. We are finalizing now our comparative report, which will be available in the end of the month or in the beginning of March. It will be online, where we will summarize and present the overall regulation, overall trends in the countries which you see on the map here. Before ending my speech, I would like to share you the print screen from our project website on which you will be able to find all the project materials. I invite you to check our project. At the moment, you'll be able to find the national reports from the countries you saw on the map, but soon there will be more information available there. Again, as we are now the internet people and people living online, I invite you to follow us not in reality, but on our website and our Facebook page.